Okay, everyone, welcome to our August Denver UX Newbies event. We're going to get into the topic in a minute. Here we've got Joe Natoli joining us for an AMA. We'll get more intro about Joe in a second here. But I want to start with some really good and exciting news that's going to sound like bad news at the beginning, but I promise it is good news. So we were planning on having our first in real life event in a long time this September. But we decided to postpone it just because, as we all know, things are starting to flare up again with public health, and we just want to be careful about it. But I do want to tell you all about the event so you can get really excited about it. And when it is time for us all to get together, we're all ready to go. So the event was going to call the people of DUX, DUX, Denver UX. I've been calling it DUX just because I think of ducks every time I say that, and it's adorable. Here's the premise of the event. In true UX format, let me start with why. Why do we want to have this event? Well, a couple things. We miss our community, right? We know that. Also, we're a lot more than our jobs. We spend a lot of time talking about UX, and we're going to talk about UX today. And I think one thing that I miss about the in real life community is getting to know people personally and what they do outside of work, and what makes them interesting and special outside of work, which there's a ton in this community. And we don't need 3 reasons to have an event. That's okay, we can have 2. So let me tell you about the event itself. What is it? Eventually it will be in real life. It's gonna be like a lightning talk kind of a format. We're gonna ask members of our community to speak for about 5 minutes, or exactly 5 minutes, and use 20 slides to tell us something about them that is totally unrelated to UX, totally unrelated to work. Maybe it has a little bit of a tie-in, sure, if you wanna be cute and clever about it. But we want to learn about what do we do when we're not putting pixels on a screen or writing research reports or whatever it is exactly we do in our jobs. We also want to encourage everybody to nominate a community member. So this event is going to be super awesome if we get people who have awesome hobbies or exciting things to share with us that we should know about and learn about, to talk about them, which we all know can be kind of scary. So you're more than welcome to nominate yourself, but if you know somebody who does something awesome on the side, nominate them. If it's something like maybe here's some example topics, what you should know about raising bees on your roof. That's weird. Doesn't have anything to do with UX, but it's important. It's actually really good for the environment. Maybe you want to tell us about why you donate 10 hours a week to some nonprofit that's really important and special in your life. We want to hear about that. Maybe you've been painting trash cans and it's taught you a lot about biodiversity. So you're going to tell us about snails and worms and stuff you find, and how trash cans in public parks are actually really important to trees. I don't know. I made that up. I don't know anything about that. Or maybe you have a secret life as a semi-pro salsa dancer. Whatever it is, we want to hear about it. We're super excited to learn more about our community. But anyway, we're going to get back to UX. So let me pass it over to my co-hosts who have the next slide. Oh, goodness. I've lost it all. Give me a second.
While Ryan's pulling that up, I just wanted to introduce you all to Lauren, our new co-organizer for the group, Lauren Richards. So she's going to talk about a really awesome event that she came up with for us for our monthly event in September. So welcome, Lauren. We're so excited to have you.
Hi. Do you want me to talk about it now or later?
Yeah, you can talk about it now. Yeah, there it is.
Okay. So just kind of thinking of just kind of how things are going in the world. And I know for me personally, sometimes you kind of feel isolated and alone. And I thought, what better than to have something called UX therapy, where, kind of like a peer-to-peer mentoring, you can, things that you might want to know about what other UX designers are experiencing are things that they've learned. So I created like a form, and everybody can submit like 3 topics that they want to discuss in like a group setting. So you can go there and put in topics, and then we'll do a poll, and then you can vote on like your favorite topics, and then we'll come together and have like mini virtual groups where we can talk about it and just kind of learn what other people's experiences are. And yeah.
Cool. I'm going to put that in the chat right now. So this is the link to the, it's a survey, right?
Yeah, and you can just fill it out and put in 3 topics that you want to discuss in like a group setting, and then we'll make another poll so you can vote on them.
Perfect, thank you. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Joe now. So Joe Natoli, if you don't already know him, is super awesome in our UX community. He's a UX consultant, author, and speaker. Everything he's done is born from nearly 3 decades of consulting with and training the product development teams of some of the world's largest organizations. He has taught over 180,000 students through his online courses and is a regular keynote speaker and lecturer at events across the globe. His courses, books, which I have right here, awesome book right here, articles, and free UX resources are available at givegoodux.com. And I just wanted to say, I highly recommend Joe's learning platform. It has really helped me to build on my consulting skills and just really learn how to own projects and get buy-in from stakeholders and all of those great things. So I think that, that confidence that I've gotten from his courses has helped me to get this new job that I'm starting next week. I got a full-time job, everyone, super exciting. So yeah, totally check that out. I think it's just a really great and helpful resource in the UX community. So Joe, I'm gonna turn this over to you to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Awesome. Well, I don't know what to say after that introduction. That was wow. I mean, thank you for that. Seriously, there's very little that I don't take very seriously. Okay, as much as I'm a pretty easygoing person, right? I'm pretty positive most of the time, but I take a lot of this very seriously, and helping people is something I take extraordinarily seriously. So it means the world to me to hear you say that. Thank you for saying it. And the platform, by the way, I wanted to mention that she's talking about is my UX 365 Academy, which is at learn.givegoodux.com. It is, it's full of every course I've ever created. My books and ebooks are there. There are a bunch of training videos there, and we put out new content every month. Okay, it's a monthly fee, $14 for basic subscription, $19 if you want to have a one-on-one group session with me and the other folks every single month. And I would just invite you to go check it out rather than me sit here and talk about it. The only thing I want to say before we get to questions is this, because I just had the same conversation with a client this morning. There's no such thing as magic expertise. Okay, you don't wake up in the morning and magically know the answers to everything because you've been doing something for a certain period of time, right? I'm lucky. I've been doing what I do for 30 years. Okay, everything that I've learned has learned from just having that much time over the target, right? If you do anything that long, you're going to have successes, and you're also going to screw up a lot, or you're going to be party to a lot of screw ups as well. And those are the things that teach you if you are open to learning from them. All right. So what I want to say off the bat is that I think all of us as UXers, as designers, have a bit of to varying degrees, a bit of an imposter syndrome problem, okay, where we think, well, I don't have this experience, I don't have enough time over the target, I don't have seniority, there's not enough that I know, I didn't go to the right program, whatever it is, all right, we beat the hell out of ourselves constantly. That's okay. The only way you learn, the only way you get better, the only way you advance in your career, the only way you get better clients, whatever it is that you're after, the only way you get better is by doing it. So if you're getting up in the morning and you're doing the job, you're doing the work, and you're caring about the outcome, right? You're caring about the people on the other end of the equation, you're fine, right? You're in the right place, you're exactly where you need to be. All you have to do is keep doing it. And when you do get knocked down, you have to get back up. That's it. It's not any more complicated than that. All right. So that's my shot across the bow. My job here tonight is to answer your questions. So what's on your mind, folks? Let's have at it.
Got some that were submitted before through the meetup group. If anybody else has questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and maybe later on we can go up and just have a conversation depending on how Joe wants to do things. So the first question is about job search. We got a lot of questions about job search in this group.
Of course.
The question reads, currently finishing up my UX bootcamp. Curious on your thoughts about applying to jobs through LinkedIn, Indeed, etc., or trying to build connections within companies to find jobs.
You have to do both, is the short answer. Okay. This is both the best time to be looking for a UX job because there are many, and it's also the worst time to be looking for a UX job because the way that hiring practices have morphed and evolved and devolved in some cases make this process a little bit painful. Those of you who have been on interviews know exactly what I'm talking about, right? How many of them there are, how many hoops there are to jump through in this process. And the problem is there's no standardization across how candidates are sourced and how resumes are ingested and used and disseminated inside a recruiting organization or inside a company. So you have to do two things. You have to jump through the standard hoops, which is if the job is on LinkedIn and you can apply through LinkedIn, you should. If it's on Indeed and you can apply through Indeed, you should. Okay. You have to use those systems and those machines because they are connected, literally in some cases, to data ingestion. And anything that doesn't come in as data, a lot of times gets ignored. All right. So you have to go through those machinations. At the same time, I'm a huge believer, and no one will ever convince me otherwise, that it is always worth your while to talk to people on LinkedIn, all right, who work at those companies that you're trying to get into, right? To have conversations, to try and build relationships, okay? Not like you're going to be immediate best friends, you're going to hang out for beers or whatever, but you want to get to know people, right? And there's nothing wrong with finding someone who's in a role that maybe you think you want to have, or someone who works on a team and that team is looking for a new member. There's nothing wrong with going to those people, messaging them and saying, hey, I saw you guys are hiring. I'm really interested in this position. If you have time, if you've got 3 minutes to chat at some point, I'd really like to learn more about what you do and how you do it. And you couch that as, this is also me trying to get experience. Right? And then maybe, and you also always offer to do something in return. Okay. And say, if there's anything I can do for you in return, I'm more than happy to do that. And on that note, I'm going to hammer it a little bit because this is something you have to do. When you ask for something from somebody else, you need to be giving something at the same time. Okay. Otherwise, it's a one-sided, here's what you can do for me. That never comes across well, no matter how you phrase it. So you always want to have something in there that says, you know, and I'd be happy to return the favor in some way if there's anything I can do for you or help you with or whatever. Okay. So that's my short answer to that. And you guys will have to wrangle me, by the way, Lene, Lauren, Ryan, because I will do this forever. So you got to move me forward so we get to people.
Okay. I have a question piggybacking off of like finding jobs on LinkedIn. So this person says, I have UX experience, but I have gotten interview feedback that I am not good at UX jargon. And they say, like, true, I tend to forget terms of things and speak in kind of basic plain language. What can I do to get more fluent in the spoken UX vocabulary?
Okay, that question bothers me a lot, and I'm going to tell you why. It has nothing to do with the asker, okay? The person asking it, I'm on your side completely, 100%. That's the most ridiculous feedback I've ever heard in my entire life. It is. Jargon, UX jargon, you don't know terms. Terms have nothing to do with this job. Terms have nothing to do with how good you are, or how well you can execute, or how well you can help people, or how well you can help an organization achieve their goals, how well you can collaborate with other people. Jargon is a mask that people use to cover up for any number of deficiencies, some of which are just insecurity, okay? Or the need to be on a pedestal, the need to say, well, I know this stuff and you don't, okay? That is a sign to me of maybe not toxic, may not be that bad, but it's not a good environment. Okay, it tells you where the emphasis is. The emphasis is, it tells you that there's a person there who is very, very interested in being in charge of things and saying, you don't know as much as I do because you don't know the lingo. That's ridiculous. Any person, any interviewer who judges you based on what terms you know is wasting your time. All right, this is a place you do not want to work, as hard as that may be to hear, right? Especially if it's a place you thought you liked, right? These are, anyone who says that kind of thing to you is just completely barking up the wrong tree. They should be talking to you about your skills. They should be talking to you about what's in your portfolio, its strengths and its weaknesses. They should be talking to you about how well you communicate what you're capable of, about how well you communicate what you can help them with. That's the kind of feedback you should get. Feedback like, well, you don't seem to know any terms. Garbage all day long. Okay, so you shouldn't feel bad about that for a second. Keep trying, keep applying. You'll find a better place.
All right, I can ask a question while Ryan's out for a minute, and my dog wants to say hi apparently, so.
It's awesome. Hi, buddy.
She's just not moving. So,
love
okay,
it.
along with job applications, what do you do if you're filling out job applications and aren't getting any interest? What can I do to increase my odds?
Well, that's a loaded question that has many parts to the answer. Number one, you absolutely have to follow up consistently, right? Just the advice everybody gives you. You have to follow up on a weekly basis. The other thing you do from first contact, I'm a firm believer in this, and if anybody has good reasons why not, I'm totally open to them. I think from the first time you contact somebody, you should set an expectation. I'll check back with you 1 week from now to see if you have any questions. That's the last statement of whatever you send them, whether it's an email or a cover letter or whatever it is. And 1 week later on the dot, if you have not heard from them, you call them and you email them. Okay, both things, not one thing, both things. And you don't act desperate. Okay, you just say, just following up as I told you I would, just call to see if you had any additional questions for me. Very interested in the position, as I said, would love to talk to you about it. Here's my number, give me a call back. That's it, short and sweet. Okay, so you're not calling to beg. But you have to pester them. If it's a recruiter, you especially have to pester them, because recruiters are all about volume. Okay, the more, the better. They're out there casting nets, trying to get as many people in the queue as they can, which means that they have a mountain of stuff in front of them that they have to dig through. So it's not uncommon. It's why they ghost people, which I hate, by the way. I think there's no excuse for that whatsoever. I want to be clear. There's zero excuse for that. Everybody's got 3 seconds to fire up an email. I'm not buying that. But at the same time, they're all over the place, right? So it is up to you to sort of be a pest until they give you an answer. Okay. So that's the first part you got to follow up. The second part is you have to make sure that all the other things that they're seeing, the minute they get your cover letter, the minute they get your resume, the minute they get a link to your portfolio, you want to give them as many things to look at that say, here's how awesome I am as possible. Now, nobody likes this answer because it's a lot of work, right? It's a tremendous amount of work, and it's kind of unfair that anyone should have to do all this just to get somebody's attention. But we live in reality, right? Your social media profiles, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There should be content everywhere that shows that you do this work, you care about this work, you know some things about this work, you have an opinion about this work, whatever it is. If they go to your social media profile and it's all just like casual friend stuff, I promise you, there's 25 other people in that pile, in that queue that they're dealing with, who have social media profiles where they're talking about the job, the work that they're applying to do. Okay. They're writing blog posts, it doesn't matter how, I'm gonna say it this way. It doesn't matter how bad they are. Okay. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're not confident as a writer, who cares? It doesn't matter. Short little posts, just ideas, thoughts, questions, anything you put out there that says, I care about this stuff. It matters to me. This is what I am. This is what I do. All that stuff works together to cement you in their mind. The more of it there is, the more top of mind you are. All right. It's really Kind of that simple. However, like I said, it's a hell of a lot of work. If you don't have a full-blown personal website, you need one. If you don't have a full-blown portfolio website, I'm not talking about Behance, I'm not talking about Dribble. You need a website, a professional website with your name on it, with a URL that you chose, okay? These things matter. The bar is up here right now. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these positions are entry-level positions, right? I teach students online. I teach part-time at Maryland Institute College of Art here. And I tell my kids every semester, kids, they're adults, but I'm old. I tell them every semester, it is patently unfair that to get an entry-level job, you have to basically look like you're a professional online. It's unfair. It's still the truth. Okay. So to me, all those things combined with, I'm going to keep bugging you until you give me an answer politely. I think that's a very good thing.
Okay, here's another question that was submitted. My UX job experience is mostly minor incremental changes to badly designed enterprise software. UX is brand new to those companies, and I had no power to do anything to change it up. So basically they're saying they don't have a sexy portfolio look, and they're like, well, they want to know how, when they present it, how can they explain it?
That's okay. The end result, okay, the end, what shows up in the final interface is 15 to 20% of the story. Okay, unless you're trying to get a job as a user interface designer and you need to show awesome, sexy design, that UI work is 15% of the story. What you have to do, everything you show, that means you show rough sketches, okay? You show boxes and arrows. You show, here's how we thought through this process. Here's why we made this change. Here's the problem we were trying to solve. Here's what was taking place. Here's what we did to do something and test it and throw it out there to see if we could fix it, see if we could change it. And here's what happened. That story is infinitely more important than any sexy thing that you show on the screen. Infinitely. Every employer, every recruiter is trained to ask one singular question, which is, how is this person going to help us get to where we want to be? They've got a hole somewhere. They've got something they need to fill. They've got something that isn't working the way it should. There's a problem, you know, there's a skill lacking in a team, whatever it is. I've worked in enterprise all my life. Okay, and I started out as a visual designer, so I love good UI design as much as anybody. But I've been working with ugly systems for 20 out of my 30 years. Okay, legacy stuff. It's painful. And it's exactly what you described, this small incremental change, which is fine. You got to tell the stories behind that small incremental change. Why did you do that? Right? Why did you make that decision? And again, focus on the thought behind it and why you got there and what problem it solved and what the outcome was, if you know that, or at the very least, what the problem was it was meant to solve or opportunity it was meant to create. You got to focus on that part. It's totally fine that you don't have a sexy portfolio. Plenty of people are in the exact same boat that you are. It doesn't matter.
Thanks, Joe. I've got a question for you. Do you have any advice for bouncing back from a poor contract experience where I wasn't given the support I needed and I ended up getting let go?
Oh, yeah, getting let go.
Yeah, I think this person just lost that job and they felt like in part they weren't getting the support.
Well, here's the part you have to be, all I can say is this, all right, because I don't know the particular situation. This is hard to do. Take your emotions out of the situation for a second, right? Because the first thing that happens when a client fires you or you lose a contract or whatever is, correct me if I'm wrong, you beat the shit out of yourself, right? Mentally, emotionally, we all do it. Everybody does it. So number one, you have to stop doing that in order to think clearly, right? That's the first part. Seriously, give yourself a break. It happened. If there was anything you could have done to prevent it, you would have done it. Okay? It was going to happen regardless. I promise you that. I've done enough of this. I've done it long enough. When that happens, there's almost always a reason, and very rarely does that reason have anything to do with you. That said, unless you know for a fact right now, if you can point to one incident or a couple of incidents where you think to yourself, oh my God, I wish I hadn't said that out loud, or I wish I hadn't done this, right? If you lost your temper with somebody, you know, if you were unkind in the words that you chose, those kinds of things, then okay, you got to do some soul searching and say, if I lost my temper, if I lost my shit and I was difficult to work with, that's on me. If none of those things are true, then you have to look at it for what it is, which is you're not for everybody. All right, I'm gonna say it again. You're not for everybody. Just like I say with freelancers all the time and self-employed folks, not every client should be able to afford you. Not every client should be able to work with you. That's the truth, okay? This is about fit, and fit is any number of things. The only part of that fit that you have any control over whatsoever is your own. So if you went in there and you did everything you could think to do, right, to make things right, to make things better, to talk to people, to ask questions, it sounds like you said you didn't get any support. Maybe you asked for support, said, look, this isn't going to work unless. If you did all that and it went south anyway, guess what? That has nothing to do with you. Doesn't make it any easier to swallow. I get that. But it really doesn't have anything to do with you. I've been in so many environments and met so many people who are carrying around their own insecurities and basically throwing them on all the people around them 24 hours a day, to know that that's just, it just happens. Okay, so the only thing you could do in a situation like that is just something that I believe in, okay, because it's not, life and work is never a matter of if you're going to get knocked down, it's a win. Okay, and the win occurs much more frequently than any of us were ever led to believe. Okay, the only thing you can do is get back up, put one foot in front of the other, and keep going. A friend of mine always said to me when I was coming up in my own business, he was a mentor. He used to say, my thing is deny failure. There's no such thing. You win or you learn. Okay, this is over, it's done, next. It's not worth any more of your time.
Hey, this is, oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, so some of the research that I do is for a very large company, and we publish that research like internally. So when building a portfolio or sharing some of the research that I've done, are there any conflicts with like confidentiality, and like how do you kind of find the balance between sharing too much like confidential information?
Did you sign an NDA?
No, not an NDA. I just get worried about sharing some of it.
Look, in that situation, if I'm you, okay, if I'm you, I will have a conversation with somebody, okay, and you say, here's what I'm thinking of doing, here's how I'm thinking of sharing it. I'd like you to tell me what parts of that you'd be comfortable with, what level of specificity you'd be comfortable with. All right, so you never just go off and do it. That's always a bad idea. And I know the fear is like they're going to say no, and then you're going to be screwed and you can't share it. But here's the other thing. When you start looking for a job, you can share the abstracts of it anyway, okay, because you did not sign an NDA. There is nothing legally precluding you from doing that. So at the point you decide I'm going to find another job, that's a different ballgame. All right, but right now I would ask them, I would have the conversation.
Cool.
And say it, under the guise of, I just, I feel like a lot of this stuff is valuable for people, and I'd really like to share it. A lot of the stuff that, and you phrase it this way, I'm putting words in your mouth, right? But you say it however it makes sense to you. Say, look, a lot of things that we're tackling here are things that I see people ask the same questions about over and over again, and I feel like it would just be helpful. In a lot of cases, that might be a good little branding thing for that company as well, because it shows their expertise, right? It paints them in a very positive light as well. So I would ask.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, another question is, on average, for any given design project, how many examples of other websites do you research? And what percentage of time do you spend on this type of research?
How many? No more than 3, to be honest. 3 to 5. Okay, 5 would be the max. If it's a really saturated market, really saturated industry, then I kind of want to see, I'll typically want to look at 5. But here's the caution with that. I don't do any of that. In fact, I make it a point not to until I've had an actual conversation with the client, and hopefully a couple conversations with the client, to learn more about their customers, to learn more about what's working, what isn't, what customers are complaining about, what things customers want from them that they haven't been able to deliver, right? Anything they can tell me, right? And anything people internally, subject matter experts internally can tell me. If I can talk to end users or end customers, of course, that's a massive bonus, but that doesn't always happen. My point to you is this: looking at competitor websites or competitor apps or competitor whatever is valuable, but you've got to be extraordinarily careful when doing that. You have to do it at a point where you already know some things about that organization so that you're not tempted to just say, well, these people are doing this and they seem to be successful, right? Or their traffic is high or whatever, so we should do this too. It's a tactic that every designer of every kind is tempted to fall into, right? Partly because we're taught that way. When I was in design school, they used to encourage us to keep what's called a swipe file, which is you would either Xerox copy things from magazines, or you would tear the pages out of magazines and actually put them, in a file. And that was when you had a new project, you would refer to your swipe file. Okay, let's see what inspiration I can find. It's a bad way to go about doing anything, because what you're looking at, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating, you're looking at someone else's solution to someone else's problem. Okay, it's not your client, it's not their customers, it's not your situation, it's not your scenario. That company doesn't have the same issues that you do, nor do you have any way of knowing whether they do or they don't. That's guesswork. Okay, so again, you're looking at someone else's solution to someone else's problem. There's a great proverb that says, don't seek to follow in the steps of wise men, seek what they sought. Right? Why? The better question is, if something needs to be redesigned, the right question is, why does it need to be redesigned? Okay, when a client comes to me and says, we got the system and it just really needs an overhaul, the first thing out of my mouth is, what led you to that feeling or that idea? What happened that made you think, oh my God, we got to redesign this? That's the story I want to hear. Okay, that's where your marching orders are. That's where even clues to what the interface should be are. Right, so my overall point is, you got to go there first. Hope that helps.
I think we just have one last question on the spreadsheet, and it's all about research portfolios. So how would you create a UX research portfolio versus design? It just seems like there's so many examples of the design portfolios, but not as much on research.
It's kind of the same thing, except you're not showing finished product. Okay, what you are doing in a research portfolio, not only, there's obviously going to be, you're probably going to have hopefully some statistics, some numbers, some details on studies, right? Things that you've done. But the biggest thing about a research portfolio that people forget is that it is still a show me, don't tell me medium. Nobody reads anything because nobody has time. Recruiters will look at what you show them for an average of 3 to 6 seconds. Numbers for hiring managers are no better. So infographics go a very long way. Okay, charts and graphs go a very long way. If you do anything with your hands related to research, when you're working things out and trying to figure out, we talk to these groups of people and we learned this and this and this, and that means there's a connection between this group and this group. You show that stuff. Okay, show your work. They got to see something quickly and go, interesting, interesting, interesting. All you're trying to do ever is keep them engaged for another 3 seconds, right? So to keep going. So you can have the full details of the research. Okay, you can have it written out formally or informally. You can have all that text and numbers and data and charts or data tables or whatever. That's fine, but do not ever assume that anyone's going to read it. You got to lead with something that's visual that summarizes it. Here's what we did, here's what we learned, here's why it matters. Right now, 3 to 6 seconds. Okay. That to me is the key, because you are competing with people who have purely visual portfolios. I think there's no reason research can't be as visually impactful as design. And if you don't have the skill to do those things, I hate to say this, but I mean, there are lots of websites where people work for really reasonable rates and do very solid visual work. Okay, Fiverr gets a lot of flack, but there are a lot of people who have tremendous visual talent, and that is what they do. Okay, they translate numbers into meaningful images. So that's how I would approach that. You got to be seen, especially if you're a researcher. You got to be seen really quickly. They have to be careful. You can't be too cartoony. Any place that's going to hire you for a research position is a place that hopefully has some respect for the power of research. So it can't be, when I say infographic, I want you to get the idea of the sensationalist stuff that you typically see out of your head. That's not what I mean. I mean, whatever story those numbers tell, whatever story that research tells, has got to hit me between the eyes immediately, 3 to 6 seconds. Okay.
That makes sense. I recently, so I switched from UX design to research, my new roles in research, and I'm the only researcher on the team. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's basically what I did with my portfolio. I took my design portfolio and I just made all the research really stand out and just presented the research. I took out the design, like the final design part. And I made infographics, so just like basic, this is how many participants I had, like a big number, just making it like the main
Exactly right.
of the show, like stand out on the page, and then just like a little description, if they wanted to read it, but just trying to make it still more visually appealing. That was helpful, I think. So
yeah, I mean, I've helped companies, I've helped clients staff up, right? I've done portfolio reviews. And I will tell you, as much as, I care about people a lot, as I hope is coming across. But even so, okay, when you've got like 50 of these to get through in a certain amount of time, and you come to a page and it's text, everything in me goes, oh my God, I'm not reading all this. I'm sorry, I'm not, I can't. My brain is dust right now. Like there's just no way. There's no way I can't process it all.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask a question since we don't have any more on the list, and then maybe we can just open up the floor if you're okay with that, and just jump in and ask questions. Sure. So since I am starting this UXR role and I'm the only researcher on the team, what should I be thinking about? Do you have any advice for me on jumping into that? And, is there anything I should be afraid of or just ready for?
Well, yeah, I mean, you should be somewhat ready for a lot of folks who don't know exactly what you do. Because if you're the only researcher, that means they've never had a researcher before, more than likely.
They actually do. They had a researcher before and she left 6 months ago. So they do.
All right, that's good.
And
that's good.
It's a large company. It's JD Finish Line. So they do, actually all of their design is backed by research. So I know they do respect research.
Tremendous.
Because that has not been my experience in the past. So I am used to going into an organization and having to evangelize UX and explain what UX is. So I'm excited that they have had something there. So
that's fantastic.
Okay.
In that case, I mean, seriously, that removes a great deal of what typically happens, the sort of churn
Yeah.
and consternation that happens when you get a job. The other thing that I always say, no matter what your role is that most people, I won't say you because I don't know. Most people, it's going to take them between 6 and 12 months just to find their feet. Okay. You're going to feel like the new person. You're going to feel slightly uncomfortable. You're going to feel like there's a lot more that you don't know than you do know. There's going to be lots of moments where you're like, okay, I don't know what to do. You're going to get surprised by things that nobody told you about, just because their heads are down and they're doing their thing as well, right? And people are like, oh yeah, we probably should have told you that. There's going to be a lot of that. So the best thing you can do is just be proactive, right? And ask questions and figure out that the hardest part of any new job is figuring out how work and information moves through an organization, right? Especially on a project. Who talks to who, when, who has responsibility for what, how much of this is there, how much of that happens independently, right? What's the balance? It's all about balances between things, and it takes a while to work that out. So the only real advice I think that sort of stands the test of time is to say, never allow yourself to be in a situation where you're feeling like you don't know what to do, or like, I don't know how this works, I don't know how they normally do this, and allow yourself to sort of freeze up. Go ask somebody, right? Because people are afraid of looking dumb, like they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. It's not true. It's not true. Okay. You ask, and you ask a lot of questions going in. And the other thing is this, and I say this for anybody who is the sole role in an organization. If you're the sole researcher, the sole designer, sole UX, or whatever it is, you're driving this bus. Okay. So I'm not suggesting that you go in there and be arrogant and say, it's my way or the highway. Not what I mean. But because you are the person in that role, that means you automatically, by default, get to say, here's what I think we should do. You understand what I mean?
Yep.
Based on what you think should happen. You don't wait for somebody else to do that. They hired you to be the researcher. Be the researcher.
I like
Okay?
it.
This is your bus to drive. Seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
Politely, of course, not pushing people around, but saying, okay, based on what I heard so far, here's what I'd like to do. And you just do it in a kind and confident way. All right. It's up to you to do that leading. And I think you should.
Cool. I think I can.
I'm sure you can. I have no doubt you can.
Awesome.
Now what?
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions they want to ask Joe? We can just open it up now and ask away.
If no one has any questions, I have one. I'm actually an engineer in software and hardware electronics, and I somehow got a company where I'm making web designs, but I'm trying to research UX design and brand strategy, and it's particularly difficult. But
Yep.
I would love to form collaborations between you. You give us your Figma, and we can take it from there, and vice versa. So I don't know if that's possible. I'm learning UX design, but I tell you, I'm spinning my head.
Well, here's the problem, right? There are a lot of ways that UX is taught. There's a lot of ways that visual UI design is taught as well. And too many of them assume that you're either sort of an expert or nothing. I don't believe that. I spend a lot of time with teams of engineers. Okay, I spend a lot of time in companies who either have like one designer or no designers. Some of those companies are global organizations who really could do things differently if they wanted to, but they don't want to. All right, I had a room full of 30 people 8 months ago. Two companies merged, two global giants merged. They merged their two engineering departments. They said, these are engineers. We don't have any designers or UX people. We're not hiring any. That's what they said to me verbatim. So it's your job to get these guys up to speed and help them design better products. I said, okay. Here's the thing. that can be done. This is not about suddenly gaining some tremendous level of visual talent, right? It's not what this is. It's about asking different questions before you make decisions about something, about how a menu should work, about how people navigate through a sequence of screens, about what the label on that button should be, about what items belong in that top navigation menu, right? It's just thinking about what people want and then trying things and testing them. So that's just, I'm speaking to the UX overwhelm part where you feel like your head is spinning. All right. That's okay. What I'm trying to tell you is you don't need to know everything.
Yeah, I sort of figured as much, but I'm one of those guys that I'm even looking at things like, oh, I like this. Use the same techniques that psychologists use to quit
Sure.
smoking, this COM-B or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I'm loving it. And everyone's thinking, well, what's wrong with this guy? He's I thought he was an engineer, and how come he's searching for all these other stuff? And I'm just loving it. And
Two of my best friends are engineers.
huh?
They're two of my best friends are engineers, and
Yeah,
one
and
of them has an incredible head for UX.
one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is that, okay, well, I'm coming up with a platform that's more fair. I don't think like platforms like Fiverr are fair, and I'm kind of fighting against
They're
that.
not.
Yeah.
They're not.
And I know that being an engineer, I won't say which professional organization, but their lobbyist group is kind of saying on the behalf of the corporations and stuff like that. And so, but anyway, what I would like to do is I'd like to make it more fair, where you're either a business owner or you're not. And I want to build that collaboration of engineers and stuff like that. So if maybe
Sounds
if
great.
you guys want to come on board and stuff like that, I don't have anything set up. I gave my email address. It's Abatron Systems is my company.
Yeah, start some conversations. I think
Yeah,
it's a really interesting idea. Start some conversations
and I'd like
see
to
where
talk
it
to you
goes.
more about the gig economy, because I think that Pfeiffer is something that I know with AB5. I'm in support of AB5 actually, being a small business owner.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to change that model. It's going to be tough to beat that model because corporations, where dollars get spent, don't come from a very, how do I say this, mature place. So those places are always going to be with us. The challenge is to deliver something better, more meaningful, more valuable, that actually delivers results. Okay, if you can promise a result, a hardcore result that either makes or saves an organization money, now you're having a conversation. Okay, Fiverr and all those places are about getting a job done, and once it's done, and that's it. The only point is getting the job done. If you want results, that's a different story altogether. That has to be your angle.
Yeah, that's what I sort of figured is the quality aspect and transparency aspect, because like everybody, it doesn't matter who you are. Anybody can start a business, which is a good thing. And this is America. Anyone can start a business, but the moment that they say you and only you, and keep records on just you and all your employees, even though they're W-2'd, there's something wrong with that picture.
Yep.
You agree?
Yep.
I'd like to have a conversation with you on that offline and stuff.
Yeah, good luck to you. Anybody else? Come on, I can't believe there are no questions out there. Somebody's got to be wondering about something.
Hi, Joe. This is Yvonne. Oh, okay.
Hi, Yvonne.
Yeah, hi there.
Hi.
I have a question about, let's see, I've got a case of imposter syndrome, and I've been watching like some videos on like how to build your personal brand. And so I'm just wondering like how to go about it. I know that there's so many people who are going through UX boot camps, and I'm one of them. Like, how do I tell like my personal story and mesh that with what I might be able to offer a company? And secondly, I'm a mother too, and I want to know, sometimes I'm a little bit nervous about saying that I have kids. I don't know how, how other companies are going to take that, if they're just going to be like, oh, she's not as invested, that kind of thing.
And if they think that, there are places you don't want to work. Okay, because
Mhm.
eventually they will find out that you have kids. All right, and anyone who's going to judge you in that situation and treat you unfairly is going to treat you unfairly. It's not a place you want to be. Trust me. So, a couple things. So, I think you should always, I think you should tell the truth. All right, here's where personal branding comes from. Here's the part that everybody gets bent out of shape about with branding, is that they think it's putting on a face for the world, right? I have to create something where people think that it's this and people get this message. It's not about that. My wife is a marketing consultant for entrepreneurs specifically, okay? And one of the greatest things that I ever learned from her, and one of the greatest things that most clients she has learned from her, is that branding comes from something she calls your big why. Why, W-H-Y, which is, why do I do any of this? Why do I care about it, right? Why does it matter at all? Why is it worth doing? What do I want? Your brand comes from you being you as strongly and as clearly and as often in as many places as possible, okay? What you folks are seeing from me tonight, this is how I am all the time with everybody in everything, all right? With every client I've ever had, that's kind of my thing. Like, what you see is what you get. I don't mince words. I have no patience for overt formality or $10 words or jargon or terminology. I don't care. All right. I want to talk. I want to have a conversation like two human beings. Let's figure out what we're trying to accomplish here and let's find a way to accomplish it. So branding is just you being you in as many ways as possible. But that starts with, you got to find the things that really sort of set you on fire one way or another. And part of the way you do that is just by exploring things. Like I didn't really realize what issues I cared about the most until I started putting myself out there and talking about different things. And what I found is that when I was talking about certain topics, I was really energized and felt good and it was important and people reacted to it. That's the other part. People react and they go, oh, okay, like you have to tell me more about that because I'm dealing with the same thing. The more you do it, you throw out the stuff like, okay, no one cares about this. And I don't really care about talking about it either. So why am I wasting my time? For example, a lot of folks on my side of the fence will talk about details of process, details of software tools, for example, step by step. It's not me. I don't care about that stuff. I don't think it's important because you can learn it anywhere. There are software tutorials all over the internet and they are free. No one needs me to tell that story. Right? What they need from me are the kinds of questions that I've gotten tonight. Clients ask me the same kinds of things. Why are we stuck here? We've done everything we know how to do and we're still stuck and we can't figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they're looking in the wrong place. They're looking for a silver bullet. They're looking for a process. They're looking for a recipe. They're looking for something that will magically fix everything. And nothing in life works this way, right? So everything I just gave you is an example of me. Like, this is my brand. So you have to figure out for you, what is that? What are the things that you find yourself returning to again and again? What are the things that you can't wait to talk about with somebody? The things that you look for an excuse to work into a conversation because you love talking about them so much. Okay?
That's super
That's part of
helpful.
that's part of your brand.
Finding
It
your
really
purpose,
is.
right? Mhm.
Yeah. You can, here's the key. You cannot do this thing where if you make that list and you look at, here are the things that really matter to me, you can't talk yourself out of them before you've even tried them, right? You can't say, like you said, I don't know if I should tell people I'm a mom. Guess what? You are a mom. It's up to them to deal with it.
Mhm.
Seriously. Okay? This is who you are. It's a badge of honor to be a parent. It is, because it's the toughest job in the world. I tell you that, and I know that from experience. Okay. So no, you absolutely, you have to go there. The other thing I'll tell you is that this is going to sound like a pitch. I swear to you, it's not. But the academy I talked about, learn.givegoodux.com. There's a course that my wife and I did together. It's called The Business of UX. It's about starting your own company, right? Or working for yourself in some way. But a healthy portion of it is devoted to that idea I just told you about, which is finding out what your brand is, finding out what it is that you have to offer to people. And that's all her, that's all Ellie, that's not me. All right, that's all wisdom that I learned from her. So I will tell you that even if you join for a month and then quit, just to hear what she has to say, I think that would be well worth your while.
I'll definitely
Okay.
check it out. Thanks.
It's, we've been life partners and business partners as well. And I've never had to this, I've worked with other business coaches. Okay. I've worked with people in different stripes of like advisory situations. Everything that I know that's stuck, everything I know that works, I learned from her. So it's worth your time.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. And her site, for anyone that cares, is ellienatoli.com, ELINATOLI.com.
I think we have a hand raised. Natasha, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Natasha, how are you?
Great. Thank you for all your great advice. Well, you mentioned that your wife was a marketing consultant for entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So I do want her information.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the
Does she
chat.
like do any mentoring or any teaching like you do?
She does a little bit of everything.
Okay. I'm interested to learn more about what she does because I have like this little side project that I'm doing for free. It's a friend who started a photography business, and I've always been the person to look at websites and just really criticize them.
Can't help
And
yourself,
so
right?
like I saw his website and I'm like, no, 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 no. And so like I'm walking him through the entire process. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, this is really what I want to do. And so I went on Udemy at my job and I saw your course and then it all led me to here.
Awesome.
So I've been
That's very
following you
cool.
around, stalking you everywhere on Facebook and,
I knew someone was watching me.
it's me.
No, that's awesome.
So, it's just crazy that you mentioned that's what your wife does. So I would love to, learn more about what she does. And since I'm kind of starting out in that area, like branding a new company and
Well, that course would be valuable to you as well. I mean,
Okay.
what we did with the Business of UX course, and there's going to be a book as well. We're working on the
Nice.
book version now. It is everything from being really honest with yourself up front. Okay, is self-employment for me or isn't it? There are a lot of very hard questions you do have to ask yourself because everybody thinks it's going to be one thing and it's not that thing. It's something else entirely. Okay. To the form of your business, to all the things that you need to think about that no one tells you need to think about. Lawyers, accountants, CPAs kind of stuff, to actually running the business, to actually getting clients, to actually pitching and proposing clients, to, like I said, branding yourself, figuring out, okay, what is it about me? What am I going to put out there that's going to be uniquely mine, that is going to send a message to people that the thing that they want most is the thing that I specifically have to offer. It's about all that stuff, and it's about operations as well. We both are firm believers. Okay, just like everything I said a minute ago. This is about, like her big belief as well, and I totally subscribe to it. It's about serving people. Okay, it's about wanting to help people. If everything you do comes from a place of wanting that person to help be better, right? You're going through their portfolio or their website and saying, no, you got to change this and this, not because you feel like, I'm guessing now, my bet would be not because you feel like you know everything,
Right.
but because you feel like this person could be connecting with people better, more successfully if they did this, 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 and this. All right, that comes from caring about other people.
Right. And
that is the right place to start. It's always the right place to start.
Yeah. I'm the person at my job that annoys everyone. We work with SharePoint. That's what we use for our company
Feel your pain
portal.
from here.
Yeah. And so I'm the one that's like, no, like I work with so many like brilliant engineers and developers, but I'm that annoying person on the team that says it's awesome, but our end users don't get it. Okay. And so
Right.
I'm going behind everybody's back and like fixing their mess. And now I don't even know how to like pitch, like as far as like a position for a UX person, because it's like I'm like unofficially that person, but that's not my job, my title, or
You want it to be?
I do. I really, really do. But I don't know how to approach them. And that's
Have a
why I took on
conversation.
this side project, for free.
Yeah, well, you have a conversation about it, and you say, look, I think there are some things that you could be doing better, and I think you could be getting better results. And you talk to them about what those results are, right? And say, let's spend X amount of time together doing it, right?
Okay.
I mean, I met with a prospective client Monday, okay, and they said, it's funny because they started down this path of what sounded to me like a design challenge, which I unequivocally will not do for anyone. And I said, look, just let's spend an hour together. Okay, pay me for an hour, spend the hour together. You'll get what you'll get, and then you can decide right then and there whether it's worth continuing or not. If you get value from that hour, then I'm sure we'll keep going. If you don't, that's okay. It's not a good fit. There's
I like
nothing
it.
wrong with you putting yourself out there, no matter how inexperienced you feel you are. If you don't have the right title, you don't have the whatever, I don't care. Do it anyway. You got nothing to lose, nothing.
And I actually was bold enough to do something like that today. I just I noticed a process that was not working, and I called a meeting. And I try to understand the process and try to get everybody involved to think things through from the end user's perspective. And they were really surprised at how much they didn't think about what the end users were experiencing.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I kind of stepped out of my little
That's good. You're doing the work. You're doing
comfort
the work
zone.
already. It doesn't matter what your title is. You're doing the work.
But I want to just jump into it, but I just feel stuck.
There's only one thing that keeps us stuck. I'm gonna sound like one of those stupid motivational posters, right? It's the truth, though. Come on, let's get
Yeah.
real here. It's the truth. The only thing that keeps us stuck is us.
Yep.
The only thing
You're
that's
right.
ever stopped me in my life is me. Have I had difficulty? Have I encountered difficult human beings? Absolutely. Had more than my share, in my opinion. None of those people had the power to stop me. I made a decision to stand still. I made a decision to stay stuck. I made a decision to say, I don't think I'm good enough for that.
Yep.
All right. If you're doing it and you're getting results, everything you just told me in 2 minutes says you're doing the work, you're getting results, people are paying attention, you're making people think, you're doing the work already. Push
And
it
I signed
forward.
up for your course, so
Cool.
I'm trying to get some training. So I'm hoping at the end of it, by the end of the year, hopefully I have more confidence to step out and approach
Confidence.
them.
Confidence,
Yeah.
a matter of practice. Okay. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Seriously.
Okay.
And go to YouTube. Did you sign up for the Academy?
Yes, the Academy.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I published this there. Look for the video on imposter syndrome as well.
Okay.
All right. Watch that. I'm 54 years old. I've struggled with it every day of my entire life.
Every time I think about imposter syndrome, I can't help to know there's this one character on Dwight Yoakam's music videos called Toad, and he's the ultimate naysayer. He says, Oh, we have a loser. And then it plays one of Elvis Presley's songs and stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
so every time everyone has a naysaying moment, just think of that dude.
Right. That's your voice. That's your inner toad speaking up. Now, seriously, Natasha, watch that video, and let me know how you make out. All right. You can ask
Okay.
questions in any of those courses, so please do.
And will, and talk to you on Friday.
Awesome.
All right.
See you then.
It looks like we have a question in the chat.
Okay.
How do you recommend gracefully refusing a design challenge?
The way that I just did, which is you could do one of two things. Okay. You can ask to be paid, or if it's a job you really want, I mean, design challenges for the moment, okay, for the time being, you're here to stay. I'm actually having lots of conversations with people in different industries, including the HR industry, just because I want to see what I can do to maybe try and change that, which may be nothing. I have no idea. I think they're pointless. I think they're a waste of everybody's time. I think they do not give you any more certainty as to whether or not a candidate is going to be the right fit. I don't buy it. All right. And there's no ream of evidence that's ever going to get me to buy it. At the same time, if it were me, or if I was looking for a job right now, and a company said, okay, we want you to do this design challenge, what I would say would be this. Well, I understand that that's your process, and that's the way you do things. I would respectfully like to propose an alternative, and it's this. I would like to work together with a couple of your folks on your team, right? One of your other designers, a developer, and that's important. Get somebody from the tech side in there. Maybe one of your product owners. And let's spend an hour or an hour and a half, or even a couple hours, right? I mean, who cares? It's up to you. All right. Let's start with an hour. So let's spend an hour together, working together on something as if we were working side by side. I think that's going to tell you a lot more about how I work with other people, about whether I'm capable of doing the work that comes through here every day, than a challenge that's removed from reality. Okay. I don't think you're going to get the full picture. So if you're amenable to that, I'm happy to do it. Okay. And they may say no. If they say no, they say no.
Okay, looks like Chioma, is that how you say your name? Do you have a question?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Thank you very much for your informative session. Okay, so my question is so I'm actually just very new to design. I started learning about a month ago, and I'm trying to work on my very first case study, which is like a dummy project. So, I mean, I'm trying to solve an actual problem which I think exists. I mean, or which women in particular face. And while I was doing my research, I discovered that while I thought that it was a problem that I felt an overwhelming majority of women would actually face, I discovered that while there was a majority, it wasn't like so great. Okay, so I disseminated a survey, and then I discovered that about, let's say, roughly 55% of my respondents agreed with me that my like hypothesis stuck, or that was
How many
actually
people?
true. So about
How many people?
so I sent it to about 30 people. 30 people responded, and about 55% of them actually agreed and said that, yeah, they faced that problem in some way. So my question actually has to do with the fact that how do you actually determine from your research whether or not a problem, or there is actually a problem that is worth solving? Because usually whenever I look through case studies, I find out, okay, when they present their problem statements, and then they, write out their research reports, maybe about 80% or 90% of their respondents say or agree that, yes, there's this problem, and they've tried to
Sure.
solve it or something. But
Sure.
then I have just like 50-something%. Yes, I feel like it's a problem that people still
It's only
face.
50% of 30 people, though. That's a very low sample.
Yeah, like it's
You
about
need a
55. Yeah.
much bigger sample. You need several hundred people before you're going to
Okay.
validate shared experience of any kind. That's just my opinion. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because of no matter what size your sample is, there's always a certain percentage of it that's garbage, basically. Okay. Those responses basically aren't any good because people are replying in a way that they think they should reply. Surveys in general very rarely tell you the truth about human behavior. Okay. And that's why when you run a survey, as opposed to face-to-face user interaction or behavioral observation or things like that, your survey sample has to be massive in order to weed out the untruth that people will give you, because they will. It's just a thing. Okay. So
Okay.
number one, you're not necessarily wrong. Okay. You're saying, well, I was surprised only 55% agree with you. That may be that your sample wasn't large enough to tell you anything definitively. So it does not mean that you're wrong at all. It also doesn't mean you're right, but it doesn't mean you're wrong. That's the first thing. The second thing is when you're trying to think about writing a case study or solving a problem, a design problem of any kind, a UX problem of any kind, a product problem of any kind, you're trying to find out three things. The stage that you're at is what's happening, right? This thing that I think is happening, you're trying to validate, is this actually occurring, right?
Okay.
The next part is when you say what's worth doing, when you ask me that question, to me, that's a factor of two things. It's how bad is it? Okay. In other words, the consequence of this thing happening. How bad is it? How bad is it hurting an organization or people or human beings, personally or professionally, right? How extreme is that consequence? How bad is it? The second part is how often does it happen? If the answer to how bad and how often is a lot,
Yeah.
that's something worth doing. Or in the case of research, it is something worth continuing to research.
Okay.
Because that's the other thing about research that nobody talks about, except Erica Hall, who I think is awesome, is that research doesn't necessarily give you answers. In a lot of cases, what it does is it tells you where to look.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So if you do a survey, that same survey, and you get 200 respondents, and you get, I don't know, let's say 68% or something inching towards 70, that's enough to suggest that there might be something here. That's not a definitive answer. That doesn't mean that the majority of women experience this. It means that there may be something to it, and you got to dig deeper to find out if there's something to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Great question.
I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anyone have anything they want to ask?
No? All right. Then I guess we wrap it up.
That's it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Joe. It was so nice having you. Really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
Us.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I certainly hope it was helpful to people. Again, I invite you all to look me up online, look me up on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter, even when I shouldn't be. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. GiveGoodUX.com is my website and the blog that I tend to occasionally. I have a YouTube channel. And again, the UX 365 Academy is at learn.givegoodux.com. It would make me tremendously happy if you'd go check it out and see what you think.
It's awesome. Highly recommend.
So will we
Thank you
be
very
able to
much.
access this recording later?
Yes, I will put the recording link on the invite on Meetup. So you'll see it in the discussion board there. And
Okay.
I'll send it out to everyone who RSVP'd yes, and I'll probably post it on LinkedIn as well. So multiple places where you can find it. And if
Nice.
you subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can get all of the recordings for all of our events.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for
No
coming.
problem. You're very welcome.
Cool. All
All right,
right.
folks.
Guess
Bye,
we'll
all.
close it out. Thanks so much, Joe. Have a great night.
Thank you, Lene, Ryan, Lauren. Thank you guys as well. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, whatever it happens to be, because I never know what time it is. And I hope we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.